We talk every day. Day by day, we communicate our ideas and speak so many words all day long. Could you imagine our world without words? How would we be able to communicate what we feel and think? Language is important, very important. Since ancient times, it has been through language that we as humans have been able to convey our ideas. This general idea of language throughout the history applies for you and me specifically as well. That's why I would like to ask you something. Do you know what was your very first spoken word? Have you ever considered how many words you have learned over your lifetime and how did you learn them? Tricky question, right? Today I'm gonna teach you 10 facts about language acquisition. Here are the top 10 interesting facts about human language acquisition. Number 10. Language acquisition is more than important, it is fundamental. What is language acquisition? Sakai, a brilliant linguist, said that language acquisition is one of the most fundamental human traits. A study conducted by Cheng and Wells, two important linguists, showed that language is also a tool that helps humans to remember, think, solve problems, and perform well in several situations in life. Language is a complex network of sequences through which we as humans convey our ideas. And it makes perfect sense, right? Because what we think and feel can be expressed through speech sounds, sentences, and words. That's language. Amazing, isn't it? Number 9. Language is encoded in us. In Chomsky's study on language acquisition, language is portrayed to be a spontaneous evolutionary stage that is encoded in human beings since their birth. We are born with the ability to learn a language. Eventually, as we grow up, as we learn words, and as we experience situations in life, we are able to express and take all those words right out of our mouths and brains. Number 8. Number of words in human lifetime. Most adult native speakers of a language know about 20,000 to 35,000 words. Native speakers of age 8 already know 10,000 words. Native speakers of age 4 already know 5,000 words. Adult native speakers learn almost one new word a day until middle age. Interesting. Number 7, second versus foreign language. You might have heard about second language and foreign language. Do you think these two terms are the same thing? Well, if you answered no, then bravo, smart people around here, huh? Second language and foreign language are two completely different concepts. A second language is a language that is not your native tongue, but you learned it because you wanted to survive on a daily basis and be able to perform well in situations that you might face in life. Let's suppose that at work you are transferred from the US to Turkey because they want you to work there. You need to perform well and do a good job in Turkey just as you did here in the US. So you need to learn Turkish to be able to face all the situations that might come up in your new life in Turkey. In this case, Turkish would be your second language. On the contrary, a foreign language does not have to be with a necessity, but with a thoughtful decision and interest and passion towards it in any sphere work, entertainment, personal goals, among others. So let's imagine that you love French culture and you want to go and see the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre. So you go to France and decide to spend some time getting to know people, getting involved in the culture and French activities. In this particular situation, you will be learning French as your foreign language. Now you know that these terms are different. Number 6. Learning versus acquiring a language. Here is your second chance to win some points when answering two questions. Are learning and acquiring a language the same concept? Well, if you answered no, then bravo again. You win some points. You are correct. These terms are different. The acquisition of language is a subconscious process, which means that you are not aware of what you are absorbing in terms of language. Imagine kids when they go through the process of acquiring their first language. They are not aware of grammatical rules, right? They are not even in a formal class with a teacher explaining them phrasal verbs or conjugations. Children just interact with their parents and family, and that's how they obtain knowledge on a language and therefore acquire fluency. In language acquisition, speakers need to be focused on the communication itself and not on the articulation of the language. The learning concept, on the contrary, involves a conscious mind process as a result of a formal instruction and prior study. It comprehends a complete awareness throughout the process applied in topics such as grammar rules, vocabulary, pronunciation, among others. Opposite to the acquired system form, the learning concept is mainly centered on presenting formally the language angles which will be devoured by the learner in a cycle that involves memorization and repetition. Number 5. Theories on language acquisition. There are three extremely intelligent guys who wonder themselves how does someone acquire language. They came up with different answers. The first guy, Chomsky, will say that language acquisition is explained from innatism, where the human being is born with the impressive ability to develop a language. Within this theory, human beings possess basic grammatical knowledge that enables them to eventually develop and acquire a language. However, Worf, as well as his friend Sapir, will affirm that language is acquired by determinism, where culture is the main ingredient. In other words, there are certain thoughts an individual conceives that come directly from their own language, and therefore another individual that does not speak that same language will not think like the first individual does. And the third guy is Skinner. This really interesting guy argued that both language acquisition and development are learned behaviors. We learn how to speak, we learn how to communicate, and that's what this approach is about. Number 4, stages in language acquisition. There are 5 stages which we as humans go through when acquiring a language. The first one is the pre-production stage. The second one is the early production stage. The third one is the speech emergence stage. The fourth one is the immediate fluency stage. And our last one is the advanced fluency stage. Number 3, language acquisition is everyday and everywhere. Do you remember when you were a little kid and your parents corrected you for mispronouncing a word in English? Well, it is not a secret that we have made mistakes even in our native language, and that's pretty understandable because we are learning. Well, just as you and I learned how to correctly speak in our native language, there's people around the world trying to venture into a language. Did you know that approximately 470 million to 1 billion people learned English as their second language according to figures in 2018? Number 2, language makes us different than any other species. This effect is demonstrated in the essence of language itself as a distinctive feature of human beings that involves the use of a cohesive and coordinated sequence of organized patterns unlike any other living species. This emerges as a response to the communicative necessity. We do not pronounce meaningless sounds to communicate. Our sounds and all this complex network with which language is made up makes perfect sense. There are no other species that can do what we do when we use this powerful tool called language. Language makes us tremendously well equipped and definitely a superb race given the complexity of language and communication that we possess. Number 1, language acquisition shapes us. Since language acquisition involves listening, writing, understanding, reading, and talking, and those are abilities that we develop as we grow, we might affirm that by acquiring a language, we are acquiring a shape as well. From the way we think to the way we express ourselves, all of that is part of language acquisition. What we are today is a result of people like parents, family, and teachers, and also situations that in certain way allowed us to be who we are, to express ourselves as we do on our daily basis, and to use language as a fundamental trait every day and everywhere. You see, there is so much more than we might think when we hear the concept of language acquisition.